Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.S. Valiant, watching the stars move past in the dark space around them. The 12 ships of Earth's strongest fleet moved together like a pack of wolves hunting in the night. Each ship was big, enough to destroy entire planets, and every person in the galaxy knew it. Jake had gray hair now, after 20 years of fighting wars that other people started. His dark eyes missed nothing as he watched his crew work at their stations. The bridge was quiet except for the soft sounds of computers and the low talk between officers. "Admiral, we have something," said Lisa Carter from her station near the front of the bridge. She was young but smart, and Jake trusted her to handle all the messages that came to the fleet. Her fingers moved fast over her controls as she tried to understand what she was seeing. "What is it, Lisa?" Jake asked, walking over to her station. The other officers on the bridge turned to listen. "It's a message, sir, but it's coded in a way I've never seen before. It's coming from the Zelani system, about 3 days from here if we push the engines hard." Jake knew about the Zelani. They were a peaceful people who had never hurt anyone. They were doctors and teachers, not fighters. Their world was beautiful, with blue oceans and green forests that reminded many humans of old Earth. "Can you break the code?" he asked. Lisa worked for several minutes, her face tight with thinking. Finally, the message began to play on the main screen. The face that appeared was not human. It had blue skin and large eyes that looked very sad. When it spoke, the words came out broken and full of fear. "This is Ambassador Kree Na of the Zelani Federation. Our world is under attack. The Korthik Empire has come to our system with many ships. They are bombing our cities and taking our people as slaves. We are a peaceful people. We have no weapons to fight them with." The message stopped for a moment, and they could hear explosions in the background. When the ambassador spoke again, tears were running down his blue face. "We ask for help from any who will listen. We know that Earth has strong ships and brave people. 20 years ago, when the sickness came to Mars, our doctors helped save millions of human lives. We ask now that you remember this kindness. Our people are dying. Our children are hiding in caves while monsters burn everything we have built. Please, if you can hear this message, help us." The message ended, and the bridge was quiet. Jake felt anger growing in his chest like a fire. The Korthik Empire was known throughout the galaxy as killers and slavers. They took what they wanted and destroyed everything else. "How old is this message?" Jake asked. 2 days, sir. It took time to reach us because of how far away they are." Jake turned to Ryan Davis, his best officer for planning battles. Ryan was tall and thin, with quick eyes that could see problems before they happened. "Ryan, what do you think about this?" Ryan looked at the star maps on his screen. "Sir, the Zelani system is not in our area. Earth Command told us to patrol the Outer Rim, not to fight wars for other people. If we go there, we might start a big war with the Korthik Empire." "But they helped us when we needed it," said Lisa. "My little brother was on Mars during the plague. He might have died if the Zelani doctors had not come to help." Jake remembered that time too. The plague had come from nowhere and spread fast. Human doctors could not stop it, and people were dying every day. Then the Zelani had come with their medical ships and their knowledge. They had worked day and night to save human lives, asking for nothing in return. "Sir," said Ben Parker from his station. Ben was young and always ready to fight. "The Zelani are good people. If we don't help them, who will?" Jake walked to the big window at the front of the bridge and looked out at the stars. He thought about his orders from Earth Command. They had told him to keep the Outer Rim safe, to protect human worlds from attack. But they had not said anything about helping other people. But Jake also thought about what it meant to be human. Humans fought for each other, even when it was dangerous. They protected people who could not protect themselves. That was what made them different from animals like the Korthik. Lisa, send a message to all ships in the fleet. Tell the captains to meet me in the war room in 1 hour. Yes, sir. Jake turned to Ryan. Get me everything we know about Korthik ships and weapons. I want to know how many ships they usually send to attack a world like this. Sir, are we really going to do this? Ryan asked. Jake looked at him with eyes as hard as steel. The Zelani saved human lives when we needed help. Now they need us. That's all I need to know. 1 hour later, Jake stood in front of 12 captains in the war room. These were the best officers in the human fleet, men and women who had fought in battles across the galaxy. Each one commanded a ship that could destroy armies. You all heard the message from the Zelani, Jake began. They are under attack by the Korthik Empire. They have asked for our help. Captain Rachel Stone was the first to speak. She was a fighter who had never backed down from any battle. How many Korthik ships are we talking about, sir? Intelligence says they usually send 40 to 60 ships to take over a world like this, Jake answered. 60 ships against our 12? Said Captain Tony Miller. That's bad numbers even for us. The Korthik have never fought humans before, Jake said. They think like all the other races in the galaxy. They think bigger numbers always win. They don't understand how humans fight. The captains looked at each other. They all knew that human ships were different. Human crews trained harder, fought smarter, and never gave up. But 60 enemy ships was still a lot. What about Earth Command? Asked Captain Laver Bennett. What will they say when they find out we left our patrol area? Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. I'll worry about Earth Command later. Right now, there are innocent people dying, and we have the power to stop it. When do we leave? Asked Rachel. Right now. Set course for the Zelani system, maximum speed, and send a message to the Korthik fleet when we get there. Tell them that Earth's deadliest fleet is coming, and they have one chance to leave before we arrive. As the captains left to return to their ships, Jake stood alone in the war room. He knew this decision might end his career. He might be court-martialed when they returned to Earth, but he also knew it was the right thing to do. The Valiant and her 11 sister ships turned toward the Zelani system and jumped into hyperspace. Behind them, the stars seemed to move out of the way, as if space itself knew that something terrible was coming for the Korthik Empire. The human fleet moved through hyperspace like ghosts in the night. Inside the ships, crews checked weapons and ran battle drills. They all knew they were going to fight an enemy that had never lost a war. On the U's Valiant, Commander Alex Turner was getting ready for a special mission. He would take a small, fast ship ahead of the fleet to see what they were up against. Alex was good at sneaking around without being seen, and he spoke several alien languages. Remember, Alex, said Admiral Norrison before Alex left, we need to know how many ships they have and where they are. But don't let them see you. If they know we're coming, they might kill all the Zelani before we can stop them. Understood, sir. I'll be back in 12 hours with everything you need to know. Alex's ship was small and painted black. It had special equipment that made it almost impossible to see on enemy screens. He jumped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zelani system and began moving slowly toward the planet. What he saw made his stomach feel sick. The blue and green world that had once been beautiful was now covered with smoke and fire. Korthik ships surrounded the planet like vultures around something dead. Alex counted 63 enemy ships, each one big enough to carry thousands of soldiers. But Alex had another job to do first. Between the Zelani system and where the human fleet was coming from, there was a space station called Haven Port. It was a place where traders from many different races came to buy and sell things. Alex needed to stop there to gather information about the Korthik, and to send the message back to Admiral Morrison. Haven Port was built inside a large asteroid. Ships from a dozen different worlds were docked there. Alex made his ship look like a regular trader vessel and requested permission to dock. The docking bay was full of aliens. Alex saw the tall, thin Vakari with their gray skin. There were short, round Bendi who rolled around on wheels instead of walking. The snake-like Scytheri moved between the other races, their scales changing colors as they talked. Alex went to a bar where spacers liked to drink and talk. He ordered something that looked like coffee, but tasted terrible. Then he listened to the conversations around him. "I hear the humans are coming," said a Vakari trader to his friend. "My cousin saw their ships moving toward Zelani space." The friend's eyes went wide. "The humans? Are you sure?" "Yes, 12 of their warships, the big ones." A Bendi rolled over to their table. "Did you say humans? The death dealers? Why would they come to Zelani space?" "The Zelani must have asked for help," said the Vakari. "My cousin says they sent a distress call 2 days ago." "The Korthik will not like that," said a Scytheri who had been listening. Her scales turned dark red, which Alex knew meant she was afraid. "The Korthik think they are the strongest warriors in the galaxy. But everyone knows what humans did to the Vorthan raiders." Alex remembered that battle. The Vorthan had attacked 3 human colony worlds, killing thousands of innocent people. The human response had been swift and terrible. An entire Vorthan fleet had been destroyed in less than 6 hours. No Vorthan ship had escaped to tell the story. "What about the Red Moon campaign?" asked the Bendi. "I heard the humans landed ground troops on Krolex Prime and wiped out an entire army in 1 day." "1 day?" said the Vakari. "It was 6 hours. 6 hours to destroy an army that had conquered 12 worlds." The Scytheri's scales turned almost black. "My brother was trading near Krolex space when it happened. He said you could see the explosions from 3 systems away. The humans turned the whole moon into glass." Alex sipped his terrible drink and listened to more stories. Each one made humans sound more dangerous than the last. Some of the stories were true, some were not. But Alex could see that every alien in the bar was afraid of human military power. "I heard," said another voice, "that human ships can think for themselves. They don't need pilots." "No, that's not right," said the Vakari. "Human ships are smart, but they still need people to tell them what to do. The scary part is how fast human crews can think. They see patterns in battle that other races cannot see." A new alien joined the group. This one was tall and covered in fur with sharp teeth. Alex recognized him as a Thraxi, a race that was known for being good fighters. "You want to know what makes humans really dangerous?" the Thraxi said. "It's not their ships or their weapons. It's that they fight for things that are not their own. Most races only fight to protect their own people or their own worlds. Humans will fight and die for complete strangers." "That makes no sense," said the Bendi. "Why would anyone risk their lives for aliens they don't even know?" The Thraxi showed his sharp teeth in what might have been a smile. "That's what makes them dangerous. You can predict what most races will do. They will run when the fight gets too hard. They will make deals to save their own lives. But humans?" He shook his head. "Humans will keep fighting even when they know they will die. They will fight harder when they are protecting others than when they are protecting themselves." Alex finished his drink and left the bar. He had heard enough. As he walked back to his ship, he heard more conversations about the coming battle. Word was spreading fast through the station. In another part of the station, Alex found a communication booth where he could send a secure message back to Admiral Morrison. The message was short, but contained everything the Admiral needed to know. 63 Korthik ships confirmed. Standard attack formation around planet. Heavy bombing of population centers ongoing. Enemy morale appears high, but intelligence suggests they do not know humans are coming. Station rumors indicate galaxy-wide fear of human military capabilities. Korthic ground forces estimated at 50,000 troops. Zelani resistance minimal. Will return to fleet in 8 hours. As Alex prepared to leave the station, he heard a commotion in the main docking bay. A group of Korthic soldiers had arrived on a supply ship. They were tall and covered in dark scales, with red eyes that seemed to glow in the station's lights. Each one carried weapons that could kill most aliens with one shot. Korthic leader was talking loudly to the station manager, a nervous Nakari who kept bowing. "We need supplies for our fleet," the Korthic said. "Food, ammunition, and medical." "Supplies. We have a war to finish." "Of course, honored warriors," said the station manager. "How goes the conquest of the Zelani world?" The Korthic leader laughed, showing teeth like broken glass. "It is no conquest. It is an extermination. The blueskins are weak. They hide in their cities and cry for help that will never come. In 3 more days, their world will be empty, except for the slaves we choose to keep. What if help does come?" asked a brave trader. "I heard rumors, ... The Korthic's eyes glowed brighter. "Rumors? What rumors?" "Nothing, honored warrior. Just silly talk about other races getting involved." "No other race would dare challenge the Korthic Empire," the soldier said. "We have conquered 47 worlds. We have never been defeated in battle." The Zelani called for help, but no one answered. No one will answer. Alex slipped quietly back to his ship and prepared to leave. But as he was starting his engines, he heard something that made him smile. A message was playing over the stations. "Communication system. Attention all ships and personnel. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Earth Federation Fleet. Any Korthic forces in this area are advised that human military vessels are approaching. You have 24 hours to withdraw from Zelani space before we arrive. This is your only warning." A reaction on the station was immediate. Alex could hear shouting and running footsteps through his ship's walls. The Korthic soldiers in the docking bay were yelling at each other in their own language. Alex launched his ship and headed back toward the human fleet. Behind him, he could see other ships leaving the station as fast as their engines would carry them. No one wanted to be near this place when the humans arrived as he flew through space. Alex thought about what he had heard in the bar. The galaxy was afraid of humans, but they were also amazed by them. Other races fought for profit or survival. Humans fought for what was right. Soon, the Korthic Empire would learn why the galaxy feared Earth's warships. They would learn that humans were different from every other race they had conquered. And they would learn that some wars cannot be won by being bigger or stronger. The human fleet was coming, and with it, the storm that would shake the galaxy. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zelani system like thunder breaking the sky. 12 massive warships appeared where empty space had been just seconds before. Each ship was 3 kilometers long and bristled with weapons that could turn mountains into dust. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the Valiant, looking at the screens that showed him the battlefield ahead. The Zelani homeworld hung in space like a wounded animal, covered in smoke and fire. Around it, 63 Korthic ships moved in formations that looked like hungry sharks circling their prey. "Ben, give me a full report," Morrison said to Lieutenant Parker, who was studying the enemy positions. "Sir, the Korthic have arranged their ships in 3 groups. 20 ships are close to the planet, bombing cities and military bases. Another 20 are in middle orbit, probably protecting the bombers. The last 23 are spread out at the edge of the system, watching for anyone who might try to help." "What about their ground forces?" "Scanner shows heavy troop presence in all major Zelani cities. They've set up slave camps outside the capital. Sir, from what we can see, they're not just conquering the planet. They're trying to wipe out the entire Zilani race. Morrison felt anger burn in his chest like acid. The Korthik were not just soldiers. They were killers who enjoyed causing pain. The galaxy would be better without them. Lisa, open a channel to the Korthik fleet commander. Channel open, sir. The main screen flickered, then showed the face of a Korthik general. His scales were darker than his soldiers, and old scars crossed his face like a map of all the battles. He had won. His red eyes glowed with the confidence of someone who had never been defeated. I am General Thrakmor of the Korthik Empire, the alien said in a voice like grinding stone. You are trespassing in territory claimed by the Empire. Leave now or be destroyed. Morrison stepped forward so the Korthik could see him clearly. I am Admiral Jake Morrison of the Earth Federation Fleet. You are attacking a peaceful world and murdering innocent people. You have one chance to withdraw your forces and leave this system. This is your only warning. Thrakmor's mouth opened to show rows of sharp teeth. It might have been a smile, but it looked more like a threat. Earth? I have heard of your little world. You are young and foolish. The Korthik Empire has conquered 47 worlds. We have never been defeated. Your 12 ships against my 63? You are either very brave or very stupid. Maybe both, Morrison replied. But here's something you should know about humans, General. We don't fight to conquer or to take things that belong to others. We fight to protect people who cannot protect themselves. And when humans fight for something they believe in, we don't lose. Old words from someone about to die, Thrakmor said. I will enjoy adding human skulls to my collection. You're welcome to try, Morrison said calmly. But first, let me tell you what's going to happen. In the next hour, your fleet will be destroyed. Your ground forces will surrender or be eliminated. And you will learn why the galaxy fears human warships. End transmission. The screen went dark. The bridge was quiet for a moment as the crew prepared for battle. Sir, said Ryan Davis, they outnumber us more than 5 to 1. Are you sure about this? Morrison looked at his tactical officer with eyes like steel. Ryan, how many battles have we fought together? 14, sir. And how many times have we been outnumbered? Every time, sir. And how many times have we lost? Ryan smiled. Never, sir. Then let's make it 15-0. Rachel, take your squadron and hit their outer perimeter. Show them what human precision looks like. Captain Rachel Stone's voice came through the communication system from her ship, the U.E.'s Thunder. Understood, Admiral. We'll punch a hole in their line big enough to fly a moon through. 4 human destroyers broke away from the main fleet and accelerated toward the Korthik outer ships. The enemy vessels were spread out in a loose formation, expecting any attack to come from the front. In a straight line. That was how most alien races fought. Head-on, ship against ship, until the stronger side won. But humans had learned to fight differently. Rachel's ships moved like dancers, each one following a pattern that looked random, but was perfectly planned. They used the gravity of nearby asteroids to change direction without slowing down. They appeared behind enemy ships when the Korthik expected them to be in front. The first Korthik ship died before its crew knew they were under attack. Rachel's destroyer, the Thunder, fired a beam of concentrated energy that cut through the enemy ship's armor like a knife through paper. The ship exploded in a ball of fire and metal. First kill confirmed, Rachel reported. Moving to target. 2. The Korthik ships tried to turn and fight, but they were too slow and too clumsy. Human ships were smaller and faster, and their crews had trained for thousands of hours to work together like parts of a single machine. Within 10 minutes, Rachel's squadron had destroyed 8 enemy ships and damaged 5 more. Not one human ship had taken serious damage. "Impossible," came Thrackmore's voice over the communication channel. "How are you doing this?" "We're humans," Morrison replied simply. "This is what we do." The Admiral turned to his weapons officer. "Steve, initiate Protocol 7. "Commander." Steve Walsh's hands moved quickly over his controls. "Protocol 7 active, sir. All ships linking targeting systems now." Protocol 7 was something only human fleets could do. It connected all 12 ships into one giant fighting machine. Each ship could see what every other ship was seeing. Each weapon could be aimed by any ship in the fleet. The 12 separate. Warships became 12 parts of one massive weapon. The effect was immediate and terrifying to watch. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination, like a school of fish that could shoot death from every direction. Korthic ships found themselves under attack from enemies they couldn't see, from angles they couldn't predict. "Ben, take us into." "The middle group," Morrison ordered. "Let's see how they like fighting when they can't predict what we'll do next." The Valiant and her sister ships accelerated toward the 20 Korthic vessels protecting the planet bombers. The enemy ships formed a defensive wall, just like their military books said they should. But human military books were different. Instead of attacking the wall head-on, the human ships split into 3 groups. One group went over the enemy formation, one went under it, and one went straight through the middle. The Korthic found themselves surrounded, with human ships shooting at them from 6 different directions at once. "This is impossible," one Korthic captain screamed over the radio. "No race fights like this." "We're not like other races," Morrison said as his ship's weapons destroyed another enemy vessel. "We're humans. We adapt, we overcome, and we protect those who cannot protect themselves." The battle in the middle orbit lasted only 20 minutes. When it was over, 15 Korthic ships were destroyed, and the other 5 were badly damaged and trying to escape. The human fleet had not lost a single ship. "All ships, advance on the planetary bombers," Morrison ordered. "It's time to end this." The 20 Korthic ships that had been bombing the planet tried to run when they saw the human fleet approaching. But they were heavy with bombs and slow to move. The human ships caught them before they could escape. "General Thrackmore," Morrison said over the communication channel, "order your ships to surrender. Your fleet is beaten. Don't make this worse by forcing us to destroy every one of your ships." Thrackmore's image appeared on the screen again. His confident expression was gone, replaced by something that looked like fear and confusion. "You ... You have defeated 40 of my ships with only 12 of yours. This is not possible. The Korthic Empire has never been defeated in battle." "Then today is a day of new experiences for you," Morrison replied. "Surrender now, and your remaining crews will live. Continue fighting, and we will destroy every ship in your fleet." Thrackmore was quiet for a long moment. Around him, Morrison could hear other Korthic officers arguing in their own language. Some wanted to keep fighting, others wanted to retreat. And some, Morrison realized, were starting to understand that humans were not like any enemy they had ever faced. We will not surrender," Thrackmore finally said, but his voice lacked the confidence it had before. "The Korthic Empire does not bow to inferior races," Morrison sighed. He had hoped the Korthic would be smart enough to give up. But some lessons could only be taught with fire and steel. "Very well, General. Tony, Nicole, finish this. Make it quick." The remaining human ships moved in for the final attack. The Korthic fought bravely, but bravery alone was not enough against superior tactics and training. One by one, their ships were destroyed or crippled until only Thrackmore's flagship remained. "General," Morrison said, "you have one ship left. Your fleet is gone. Your invasion has failed." Surrender now, and you and your crew can return to your own space. Refuse, and you will die here with your ship. Thrackmore looked around his bridge at his surviving officers. For the first time in his life, he was facing total defeat. The Korthak Empire had always won through superior numbers and brutality. They had never faced an enemy that could outthink them and outfight them at the same time. I yield, he said finally. The Korthak fleet surrenders to ... to the humans. Morrison nodded. Smart choice, General. Now order your ground forces to surrender as well. If they refuse, we double you. News of the defeat traveled through space faster than the speed of light. Within hours, every corner of the galaxy knew that the mighty Korthak Empire had been crushed by 12 human ships. But the story was far from over. Deep in Korthak space, another fleet was already moving toward the Zelani system. This one was bigger than the first. Over 100 ships commanded by War Marshal Krixtal, Thrackmore's older brother. Unlike Thrackmore, who had been overconfident, Krixtal was careful and smart. He had studied every report about human military tactics he could find. The humans defeated my brother because he underestimated them, Krixtal told his officers as their fleet approached the Zelani system. He thought numbers alone would win. But humans fight differently than other races. They coordinate their attacks in ways we have never seen before. Then how do we defeat them, War Marshal? Asked Captain Vexka, commander of the battleship Bone Crusher. By being smarter than they are, Krixtal replied. We will not attack them in space where they have the advantage. We will force them to come to us on the planet's surface, where our superior numbers and ground weapons will destroy them. Admiral Morrison was on the bridge of the Valiant when the warning came through. Lieutenant Ben Parker looked up from his scanner with worry on his face. Sir, we have a problem. Long-range sensors are picking up another Korthak fleet, much bigger than the first one. How many ships? Morrison asked. 112, sir. And they're carrying heavy ground assault equipment. It looks like they plan to land on the planet and force us to fight them there. Morrison studied the tactical display. This was exactly what he had been afraid of. The first Korthak fleet had been overconfident and careless. This new force would be different, more careful, more dangerous. How long until they arrive? 6 hours, sir. Morrison turned to his communication officer. Lisa, get me Colonel Amy Rodriguez. It's time to wake up the ground troops. Colonel Rodriguez appeared on the screen a few minutes later. She was a tough woman with short black hair and scars on her hands from a dozen battles. Behind her, Morrison could see human soldiers preparing their equipment and checking their weapons. Amy, we have incoming trouble. 100 Korthak ships with heavy ground forces. They're going to try to take the planet and force us to fight them on the surface. Amy smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. How many ground troops are we talking about, sir? Intelligence estimates around 70,000 Korthak soldiers, plus heavy armor and artillery. Against our 5,000 Marines? Yes. Amy's smile got wider. Poor bastards, they have no idea what they're walking into. Morrison almost felt sorry for the Korthak. Almost. Amy Rodriguez had led human ground forces through some of the worst battles in the galaxy. Her Marines were trained to fight in any environment, against any enemy. They were fast, smart, and absolutely ruthless when protecting innocent people. Amy, I need you to coordinate with the Zelani resistance. Find out where their people are hiding and make sure they stay safe while we deal with this new fleet. Already on it, sir. I've been talking to their resistance leader, a female named Kalai. She says they have about 2 million people hidden in underground shelters. The Korthak don't know where most of them are. Good. Keep it that way. 6 hours later, the second Korthak fleet arrived. War Marshal Crix Tall kept his ships far away from the human fleet, just as Morrison had expected. Instead, the Korthik ships began landing troops on the planet's surface at multiple locations. "They're learning," Morrison said to Ryan Davis. "This commander is smarter than his brother. What's our move, sir?" Morrison studied the tactical display, showing Korthik landing sites spread across 3 continents. "We give them what they want. Ground combat. Steve, initiate the full Protocol 7 network, including ground units." Commander Walsh looked surprised. "Sir, are you sure? We've never tried to link space and ground forces before. There's a first time for everything. Amy's Marines are about to show the galaxy why human ground troops are even more dangerous than our ships." On the planet's surface, Colonel Rodriguez watched Korthik dropships landing in a valley 20 kilometers from the main Zilani city. Through her binoculars, she could see thousands of enemy soldiers forming up into attack formations. "Captain Pete Johnson," she said into her radio. "What's your position?" "We're on the ridge overlooking the valley, Colonel. Perfect view of the enemy landing zone. How many do you count?" "About 15,000 in this group alone. They have heavy tanks and artillery pieces. Looks like they're planning to march straight at the city." Amy smiled. The Korthik were doing exactly what she had hoped they would do. They were thinking like most alien races. Put the biggest army in the field and march it straight at the enemy. "Pete, deploy your squads according to Pattern Delta. Make sure every exit from that valley is covered." "Pattern Delta? Colonel, that's going to be a massacre." "That's the idea." Pattern Delta was a human military tactic that had been used to destroy alien armies on a dozen worlds. It looked simple on paper, but it required perfect timing and coordination between hundreds of soldiers working together. The Korthik army began marching toward the Zilani city, just as Amy had predicted. 15,000 soldiers in perfect formation, with tanks and artillery supporting them. To any normal observer, it looked like an unstoppable force, but Amy's Marines were not normal soldiers. The first sign that something was wrong came when the Korthik scouts at the front of the army simply disappeared. One moment they were there, the next moment they were gone. No shots were fired, no bodies were found. They just vanished. "Where are the scouts?" demanded General Hector, the commander of the ground forces. "Unknown, sir. They stopped reporting 10 minutes ago. Send more scouts. And tell them to stay in contact." But the second group of scouts disappeared too. And the third. Soon, General Hector realized that something was hunting his soldiers, picking them off one by one without making a sound. "Human soldiers," he said to his officers. "They're using stealth tactics." "How many humans could there be?" asked his aide. "Our intelligence says only 5,000. "It doesn't matter how many there are," Hector replied. "We will crush them with superior firepower. Order all units to advance at maximum speed. Fire on anything that moves." But when the Korthik army tried to advance faster, they discovered that the humans had been busy during the night. The road through the valley was blocked with obstacles that looked like natural rock falls, but were actually carefully placed barriers. The main army was forced to split into smaller groups to get around the obstacles. That was exactly what Amy had been waiting for. "All units, execute Pattern Delta," she ordered. What happened next was not really a battle. It was more like a carefully planned disaster that fell on the Korthik army, like an avalanche. Human soldiers appeared from hiding places that the Korthik had not even known existed. They came from behind rocks, from underground tunnels, from trees that had looked empty minutes before. Each group of humans attacked a small piece of the Korthik army, then disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. The Korthik had trained to fight in large formations against other large formations. They did not know how to deal with an enemy. that attacked in small groups from unexpected directions. Their heavy weapons were useless because they could not see targets to shoot at. "We're under attack from all sides," reported one Korthik captain. "Request immediate support." "Where are they attacking from?" General Hector demanded. "Everywhere. They're everywhere." In space above the planet, Admiral Morrison watched the battle through satellites and cameras carried by his ground troops. The Protocol 7 network allowed him to see everything that was happening on the surface in real time. "Amy's doing good work down there," he said to Ryan Davis. "But the Korthik still have reinforcements coming." "Sir, another 60,000 troops are landing on the other continents. They're trying to surround our ground forces." Morrison nodded. He had expected this too. "Tony, Nicole, take your squadrons and start hitting their landing ships. Don't let any more troops reach the surface." The human ships dove toward the planet like eagles hunting prey. They moved between the Korthik fleet with speed and precision that the enemy could not match. Landing ships exploded in balls of fire before they could discharge their troops. Transport vessels were destroyed before they could unload their supplies. War Marshal Krixtal watched his carefully planned invasion falling apart. In space, human ships were destroying his transports faster than he could protect them. On the ground, his armies were being torn apart by an enemy they could barely see. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "We have them outnumbered 20-1 on the surface." "Sir," reported his intelligence officer, "it appears that human soldiers do not fight the way other races fight. They work together in small groups that can appear and disappear quickly. Each group seems to know exactly what every other group is doing. That's impossible. No race can coordinate that many small units at once. But it was possible, and the humans were proving it." Every Marine on the planet was connected through the Protocol 7 network. They could see what their comrades were seeing, know where their enemies were, and coordinate attacks with perfect timing. Colonel Rodriguez stood on a hill overlooking the valley with the 1st Korthak Army. The battle for the Zelani homeworld had been raging for 3 days when War Marshal Krixtal made his final, desperate decision. His fleet was broken, his armies were scattered, and the humans seemed to be everywhere at once. But he still had one weapon left, something so terrible that even the Korthik Empire used it only when facing complete defeat. "Prepare the planet-killer weapons," he ordered his surviving officers. Captain Vexka stared at his commander in shock. "Sir, the planet killers? But there are still 50,000 of our own troops on the surface." "They are already lost," Krixtal said coldly. "The humans have made fools of us. If we cannot have this world, then no one will. Fire the planet killers. Destroy everything." Admiral Morrison was on the bridge of the Valiant when the warning came through. Lieutenant Ben Parker's face went white as he read his instruments. "Sir, the Korthik ships are powering up some kind of massive weapons. Energy signatures are off the charts." "What kind of weapons?" Morrison demanded. "Planet killers, sir. They're going to try to destroy the entire world rather than let us save it." Morrison felt ice form in his stomach. Planet killer weapons could turn a living world into a ball of dead rock in minutes. The Zelani people, his own ground troops, everything would be destroyed. "How long until they can fire?" 2 minutes, sir." Morrison's mind raced through options. His ships could try to attack the Korthik vessels, but they would never reach them in time. The planet killers were already charging, and once they fired, nothing could stop them unless ... "Steve, can we link all our ship's main weapons into a single beam?" Commander Walsh looked at his controls with wide eyes. "Sir, that's never been attempted. The power requirements alone could tear our ships apart. Can we do it? Theoretically, yes. But if we channel that much energy through the Protocol 7 network, we might lose half the fleet." Morrison looked at the tactical display showing the Korthik planet killers almost ready to fire. Below them, 2 million Zelani civilians were hiding in underground shelters, trusting that humanity would protect them. On the surface, 5,000 human Marines were fighting to save people they had never met. "Do it," Morrison ordered. "All ships, prepare for solar flare formation." "Sir," said Ryan Davis, "are you sure about this?" "We could lose everything." Morrison turned to his oldest friend with eyes like steel. "Ryan, those people down there saved human lives when we needed help. Now they need us. I'd rather die trying to save them than live knowing I let them die." Ryan nodded and began working at his station. Around the bridge, every officer prepared for the most dangerous maneuver in human naval history. "Lisa, send a message to all ships," Morrison said. "Tell them what we're attempting and ask for volunteers. Any ship that doesn't want to risk destruction can break away now." Lisa sent the message and waited for responses. One by one, every ship in the fleet reported back with the same answer. "Ready to proceed, Admiral?" Captain Lavra Bennett's voice came through from the engineering section. "Admiral, I've linked our main reactor to the weapon systems. But sir, if this doesn't work exactly right, the energy feedback will destroy us." "Understood, Lavra. How long do we have?" "The Korthik planet killers will fire in 30 seconds. We need to fire at exactly the same moment they do, or the weapons. We'll get through." Morrison watched the countdown on his screen. Around him, his crew worked with the calm precision that came from years of training and absolute trust in each other. 10 seconds, Lavra reported. "All ships report ready." 5 seconds. Morrison gripped the arms of his command chair. "Fire." The 12 human ships fired as one. Their individual weapon beams merged into a single lance of energy, brighter than a star. The combined power of the entire fleet focused into one devastating attack that shot across space toward the Korthik planet killers. The timing was perfect. The human beam struck the Korthik weapons just as they were firing. The planet killer missiles exploded before they could leave their launchers, creating a chain reaction that destroyed half of the remaining Korthik fleet in a single instant. But the cost to the human fleet was terrible. 3 ships were completely destroyed by the energy feedback, their hulls cracking apart like broken glass. 5 more were badly damaged, their engines dead and their weapons offline. Morrison felt the Valiant shake around him as overloaded systems failed throughout the ship. Emergency lights flickered on as the main power died. "Damage report," he called. "Out. We've lost main engines and half our weapons," Lavra reported. "But we're alive, sir, and the planet is safe." On his screen, Morrison could see the surviving Korthik ships retreating toward the edge of the system. War Marshal Kriegstahl's flagship was among them, but it was badly damaged and limping away on emergency power. "Sir," said Lisa, "incoming transmission from the Korthik flagship." "Put it through." Kriegstahl appeared on the screen, his face a mixture of rage and something that might have been respect. Behind him, smoke filled his bridge and sparks flew from broken equipment. "You have defeated the Korthik Empire," he said slowly. "Something that has never been done before." "How?" Morrison looked at the alien commander with tired eyes. "We fought for something bigger than ourselves. You fought for conquest and glory. We fought to protect innocent people. That made all the difference. I do not understand." "Maybe someday you will," Morrison replied. "Now get out of this system and don't come back. If I see Korthik ships in Zelani space again, I won't be so merciful." Kriegstahl's image disappeared from the screen. Minutes later, the surviving Korthik ships jumped into hyperspace and fled toward their own territory. Colonel Amy Rodriguez was standing in the main square of the Zelani capital when the news came through that the planet killers had been destroyed. Around her, thousands of Zelani civilians were emerging from their hiding places, looking up at the sky where human ships had saved their world. "Colonel," said Captain Pete Johnson, "all Corthay ground forces have surrendered or retreated. The planet is secure." Amy nodded, but her attention was focused on a group of Zelani children who had come out of an underground shelter. They looked thin and scared, but alive. One of them, a little girl with blue skin and large eyes, walked up to Amy and said something in the Zelani language. "What did she say?" Amy asked her translator. "She says thank you for saving our family. She wants to know if the bad soldiers are really gone." Amy knelt down so she was at the child's eye level. "Yes, little one. The bad soldiers are gone. You're safe now." The child smiled for the first time in days and ran back to her family. Amy watched her go and felt something warm in her chest. This was why humans fought. Not for glory or conquest, but for moments like this. 3 days later, Admiral Morrison stood in the Zelani council chamber, surrounded by the planet's surviving leaders. His uniform was torn and dirty, and he looked like he had not slept in a week. But he was here to finish what they had started. Elder Zefka, the senior Zelani leader, stood before Morrison with tears in his large eyes. "Admiral, your people have saved our world. We can never repay this debt." "You already did," Morrison replied. 20 years ago, your doctors saved millions of human lives during the Martian plague. We're even." "No," said Zefka. "What you have done goes far beyond repaying an old debt. You came to help people you barely knew, fought an enemy that outnumbered you greatly, and risked everything to protect us. This is not something that can be measured or repaid." Morrison was quiet for a moment, thinking about all the human lives that had been lost in the battle. 3 ships destroyed, hundreds of crew members dead. But millions of Zelani were alive because of their sacrifice. "Elder Zefka, my government has authorized me to offer you a formal alliance between Earth and the Zelani Federation. We would like to establish a permanent presence in your system to make sure nothing like this happens again." The Zelani leader's eyes went wide. "You would do this? You would stay to protect us?" "If you'll have us." "Yes," Zefka said immediately. "Yes, we would be honored to have human protectors." As Morrison left the council chamber, he found Lisa Carter waiting for him in the hallway. "Sir, we're receiving messages from all over the galaxy. Dozens of other peaceful races are asking for protection from aggressive empires. The Tharaki Republic wants us to help them against the Vex Consortium. The Marani Union is asking for aid against pirate raids. Sir, it seems like half the galaxy wants Earth's help." Morrison looked out a window at the Zelani city, where human marines were helping rebuild damaged buildings. In the distance, he could see human ships taking position in orbit, ready to protect this world from any future threats. "Signal Earth Command," he said. "Tell them we're going to need a bigger fleet." As news of the human victory spread throughout the galaxy, every race began to reconsider their place in the cosmic order. The Corthic Empire, once feared throughout known space, had been defeated by a smaller human force. Other aggressive empires suddenly found themselves facing questions from their own citizens about whether conquest was worth the risk of facing Earth's warships. But for peaceful races throughout the galaxy, the news brought hope for the first time in generations. Humanity had proven that bullies could be stopped, that the strong could be defeated by the smart and the brave. On Earth, Admiral Morrison's final report was read by leaders who understood that their world had just become something new. Admiral Jack Morrison stood in the command center of the Orbital Defense Station. The metal walls around him hummed with quiet energy. Earth spun slowly below, blue and peaceful in the darkness of space. Jack had been watching over his home planet. For 15 years, nothing ever happened up here. The most exciting thing was usually a broken satellite or space junk floating too close. The communication officer turned around in her chair. Her face was pale. "Sir, we lost contact with New Montana 3 days ago." Jack frowned. New Montana was one of their outer colonies. 2 million people lived there, mostly farmers growing food for other settlements. Equipment failure? No, sir. Lieutenant Lisa Carter has been trying to reach them every hour. Complete silence. Lisa walked over with a data pad in her hands. She was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and serious eyes. "Admiral, I picked up something strange before we lost contact." It was the colony administrator, Pete Williams. He was screaming about lights in the sky. Jack took the datapad and listened to the recording. Pete's voice came through, filled with terror. "They're everywhere. Ships in the sky. They're not ours. They're firing. Oh, God, they're firing on the settlements. The whole valley is burning. They're killing everyone. Why won't they stop? Why won't they?" The transmission cut to static. Jack's blood turned cold. "Play it again." Lisa pressed the button. They listened to Pete's final words 3 more times. Each time, Jack felt his stomach drop lower. "Sir," the communication officer called out, "I'm getting reports from other stations. Kepler's Rest went silent yesterday. Titan's Edge stopped transmitting this morning." Jack stared at the datapad. 3 colonies. 3 settlements full of innocent people. All quiet now. "Get me President Hayes. Emergency channel." The main screen flickered to life. President Robert Hayes appeared, sitting behind his desk in Washington. His gray hair was messy, like he had been running his hands through it. Dark circles hung under his eyes. "Jack, please tell me you have good news." "I don't, sir." "We've lost contact with 3 outer colonies. New Montana, Kepler's Rest, and Titan's Edge. We have audio from New Montana." "It sounds like an attack." The president's face went white. "Attack? By who?" "Unknown ships, sir. The colony administrator said they were firing on settlements." Hayes was quiet for a long moment. "How many people?" New Montana had 2 million. Kepler's Rest had 800,000. Titan's Edge had 50,000 researchers. The president closed his eyes. "Nearly 3 million people." Jack nodded. "Sir, I recommend we put all defense stations on high alert. If someone is attacking our colonies, do it. I'm calling an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. General Patricia Woods is already on her way. We'll know more soon." The screen went dark. Jack turned to his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for orders. These were good people. Soldiers who had trained their whole lives for a moment like this. None of them had ever expected it to really happen. "Alert status red," Jack announced. "All weapon systems online. Scan for any ships that don't belong. If something moves out there, and it's not ours, I want to know about it." The crew jumped into action. Screens lit up around the command center. Warning lights flashed red. The quiet hum of the station changed to something urgent and alive. Lisa stayed next to Jack. "Sir, do you think they're coming here?" Jack looked down at Earth. Billions of people lived down there. They went to work, had families, lived normal lives. They had no idea that 3 of their colonies might be nothing but ash and smoke now. "I don't know, Lisa, but we're going to be ready if they do." 2 hours later, General Patricia Woods appeared. On the main screen, she was calling from the Pentagon. Her uniform was perfect, but her face was grim. "Admiral Morrison, we've analyzed the data from all 3 colonies. The attacks were coordinated. They hit all 3 at almost the same time, across different star systems." "Aliens?" Jack asked. "Has to be. Our intelligence suggests it was the Zephyrian Empire. They've been expanding across the galaxy for decades. Very aggressive, very violent." Jack had heard of the Zephyrians. Most humans had. They were part of the Galactic Council, like Earth was. But everyone knew they were trouble, They had conquered dozens of worlds. They treated other species like animals. Why attack us? We've never bothered them. General Woods shook her head. Our sources say they don't need a reason. They see humans as weak, primitive. They probably think we can't fight back. Can we? The general paused. Our fleet has 37 ships. The Zephyrians have over 600. Our weapons are basic kinetic cannons and fusion missiles. Theirs are plasma bombardment systems that can burn entire continents. Jack felt the weight of those numbers. 37 ships against 600. It wasn't even a fair fight. What are orders? Protect Earth at all costs. The President is meeting with Ambassador Helen Price. She's going to the Galactic Council to ask for help. Will they help us? General Woods was quiet for a moment. Probably not. Most species are afraid of the Zephyrians. They won't risk war to save us. After the call ended, Jack stood alone in the command center. His crew worked around him, preparing for a battle they probably couldn't win. Down below, Earth kept spinning. People went about their lives, not knowing that death might be coming from the stars. Jack thought about Pete Williams, a good man, who had spent his life growing food to feed other colonies. Now he was probably dead, along with everyone he had ever known. The Zephyrians had killed them all without warning, without mercy. But humans were still alive. Earth was still free. And as long as Jack Morrison had breath in his body, he would fight to keep it that way, even if they had no chance of winning. Dr. Alan Tucker was eating lunch when his phone rang. He almost didn't answer it. The number was blocked, and he got a lot of spam calls at the research facility. But something made him pick up. Dr. Tucker, this is President Hayes. Alan nearly choked on his sandwich. Mr. President? Doctor, I need you to listen carefully. Authorization code Alpha 77 Lazarus. Do you understand? Alan's fork clattered to the floor. His hands started shaking. Sir, that code. Are you sure? I'm sure. How fast can you get to Nevada? Alan looked around his small office. He had been working here for 20 years, studying alien technology in secret. The Alpha 77 Lazarus code was something he hoped he would never hear. 4 hours by military transport. A plane is already waiting for you. Dr. Tucker, I need you to understand something. We just lost 3 colonies. Nearly 3 million people are dead. Alan closed his eyes. The Zephyrians? Yes, and they're probably coming for Earth next. I'll be there in 4 hours. The flight to Nevada felt like the longest 4 hours of Alan's life. He stared out the window at the desert below. Somewhere down there, buried under miles of rock and steel, was Project Lazarus. He had helped design it 30 years ago, when he was young and foolish enough to think it would never be used. The military base looked normal from the outside. Just another research facility in the middle of nowhere. But Alan knew better. He walked through 3 security checkpoints, each one scanning his eyes, fingerprints, and DNA. Finally, he reached the elevator. The elevator went down for a full minute. When the doors opened, Captain Susan Blake was waiting for him. She was tall and strong, with black hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. Her uniform had no rank symbols that most people would recognize. Dr. Tucker, we've been waiting for you. How long since activation? 6 hours. We're bringing everything online now. They walked through corridors carved from solid rock. Emergency. Lights cast red shadows on the walls. Alan could hear machines humming in the distance, waking up after decades of sleep. How many people know about this place? Counting you and me? Maybe 50 people on Earth. The President. A few generals. The engineers who built it. They reached a massive steel door. Susan pressed her hand to a scanner, then typed in a code. The door opened with a deep rumble. Alan stepped into the chamber and felt his breath catch. The room stretched away into darkness, bigger than a football stadium. Rows of cylindrical containers lined the floor, each one 30 feet tall and glowing, with soft blue light. "How many?" Alan whispered. 300 containers. 50 different weapon systems. Everything we could think of. Alan walked to the nearest container. Through the clear metal, he could see thousands of tiny silver spheres floating in liquid. "Nanite." "Swarms," Susan said. "Self-replicating. They eat metal and turn it into more nanites. One container could consume an entire battleship in 20 minutes. They moved to the next container. This one held what looked like a black metal sphere covered in strange symbols. Quantum disruptor. It tears holes in space-time. Anything that gets too close just ... stops existing. Alan shook his head. "We built all this? We had help. You remember the crash in Antarctica? 2157? The alien ship. I worked on that project. We learned a lot from that wreck. Took us 50 years to understand even the basic concepts. But we kept working, kept improving." They walked deeper into the chamber. Container after container of weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Biological agents that could adapt to any alien DNA. Energy weapons that could punch through any known shield. Gravity bombs that could collapse stars. Susan, these weapons. They could destroy entire planets. That's the idea. Alan stopped walking. "We're not supposed to be like this. Humans are supposed to be peaceful. We're explorers, not warriors." Susan turned to face him. Her eyes were hard. "Doctor, 3 million of our people are dead. They were farmers and miners and scientists. They never hurt anyone, but the Zephyrians killed them anyway, just because they could. I know, but no buts. The galaxy thinks we're weak because we choose to be peaceful. They think our technology is primitive because we only show them the simple stuff. Well, today they learned the truth." They reached the center of the chamber. A large screen showed a map of the solar system. Red dots marked the locations of hidden weapon platforms throughout the asteroid belt and on the outer planets. "We've been building this network for 70 years, Susan explained. Every mining station, every research outpost, every satellite has weapons hidden inside. The galaxy thinks we're just digging for rocks and studying planets. They have no idea what we've really been doing." Alan stared at the map. Hundreds of red dots, each one representing enough firepower to destroy a fleet. On the moon, the Prometheus. Array, kinetic bombardment platforms. We can drop tungsten rods on any target in the solar system at 90% the speed of light. The outer planets, automated defense platforms. If anything enters our solar system without permission, they'll know about it. Alan walked to another container. This one held vials of green liquid, biological weapons, targeted viruses. Completely harmless to humans. Lethal to any known alien species within hours. We've been collecting DNA samples from every species that visits Earth for the past 50 years. Through diplomatic meetings, among other things. Amazing how much genetic material people leave behind when they shake hands. Alan felt sick. All those years of peaceful contact with alien species. All those friendly diplomatic dinners and cultural exchanges. And they had been collecting samples the whole time, preparing to kill them if necessary. "Dr. Tucker, I know this is hard to accept, but the galaxy is not a nice place. Species get conquered every day. Entire civilizations get wiped out because they couldn't defend themselves. So we prepared to wipe them out first. We prepared to survive. There's a difference." Susan led him to a control room overlooking the chamber. Banks of computers lined the walls. Technicians worked at stations, bringing weapon systems online. Status lights changed from red to green as each platform reported ready. How long until? Everything is active? 12 hours, maybe less. And the Zephyrians? Our scouts report a large fleet massing at their forward base. 600 ships. They'll probably attack within the week. Alan sat down in a chair and put his head in his hands. We're really going to do this. Dr. Tucker, look at me. He raised his head. Susan was standing in front of him, her face serious, but not unkind. 30 years ago, you helped design these weapons because you knew this day might come. You knew that someday humanity might face extinction. Well, that day is here. I hoped I was wrong. So did I, but we weren't. And now we have a choice. We can let the Zephyrians destroy Earth like they destroyed our colonies. Or we can show them what happens when someone attacks the human race. Alan looked out at the chamber full of weapons, each one capable of ending civilizations, each one built by human hands, human minds, human ingenuity. The galaxy will never trust us again. Good. Fear keeps you alive longer than trust. A technician called out from his station. Captain Blake, Prometheus Array reports full operational status. Nanite production facilities, online and manufacturing. Quantum disruptors, charged and ready. Susan turned back to Alan. Doctor, in 12 hours, the most powerful weapons ever created by human beings will be ready for combat. What we do with them will determine whether humanity survives or becomes just another extinct species. Alan stood up slowly. Outside, somewhere in space, an alien fleet was preparing to destroy his world. Below him, humanity's true power was awakening from its long sleep. Let's make sure they regret attacking us. Ambassador Helen Price sat in the Galactic Council chamber, surrounded by representatives from 50 different species. The chamber was huge, with curved walls that rose up into darkness. Each species had their own section, designed to make them comfortable. The Altarians needed water tanks. The Crystalline Collective required special light frequencies. The insectoid hive minds clustered together in warm, humid pods. Helen sat alone in the human section. Just one chair, one desk, one voting panel. Humans were still new to the galaxy, still seen as primitives who had barely learned to leave their own planet. That was exactly what she wanted them to think. War Commander Thex High of the Zephyrian Empire stood at the central podium. He was 8 feet tall, covered in gray scales, with 4 arms and yellow eyes that never blinked. When he spoke, his voice rumbled through the chamber like thunder. The Zephyrian Empire has claimed the Outer Rim territories previously occupied by the human infestation. These worlds now serve the glory of our empire. Helen stood up, her hands shaking just enough for the other ambassadors to notice. Commander, Thex High, those were peaceful colonies. Farmers, miners, researchers. They never threatened anyone. Thex High's 4 eyes focused on her. Weakness is not a virtue human. Your species spreads like a disease, claiming worlds you cannot defend. We have simply corrected this mistake. Nearly 3 million people lived on those worlds, and now they do not. This council should thank us for removing a future problem. Several ambassadors shifted uncomfortably. The Altarian representative, Ambassador Bluin, spoke up. The destruction of peaceful settlements violates council law. Thex High laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. Council law applies to civilized species. Humans have been part of this council for 12 years and still use primitive chemical rockets to reach orbit. A fight with kinetic weapons and fusion bombs. They are barely above animals. Helen forced tears into her eyes. It was an old trick she had learned in her first diplomatic training. Please, honored representatives, Earth is defenseless. We have 37 ships, all of them science vessels or cargo haulers. If the Zephyrians attack our homeworld, when we attack your homeworld, Vexai corrected. The Zephyrian fleet departs for Earth in 72 hours. Your pathetic species will join the others we have eliminated. Helen collapsed into her chair, sobbing. Around the chamber, other ambassadors looked away. Some seemed genuinely sad. Others just looked relieved that it wasn't their species being threatened. Ambassador Kretak of the Mineral Consortium finally spoke. Perhaps the humans could be relocated to a reservation world, allowed to exist under Zephyrian protection. We do not keep pets, Vexai said. The human infection will be completely eliminated. Helen stood up again, wiping her eyes. I need to contact my government, to tell them to tell them to prepare for evacuation. There is nowhere to run, human. The Zephyrian Empire spans 300 systems. Your ships are too slow to escape our fastest scouts. Helen nodded and walked out of the chamber, her shoulders shaking with apparent fear. Once she was in the hallway, alone, she stopped crying instantly. She pulled out her secure communicator and dialed a coded number. This is Lazarus Command. This is Price. 72 hours. Full fleet deployment. Understood. How did your performance go? Academy Award worthy. Vexai thinks we're completely helpless. Perfect. Maintain cover until the shooting starts. Back. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Mitchell was working in her laboratory. She had been the head of Earth's Xenobiology division for 8 years. Officially, she studied alien life forms to better understand the galaxy's biodiversity. Unofficially, she was building weapons. Her lab looked innocent enough. Microscopes, computers, sample containers filled with various alien tissues. Most of it was legitimate research. But in the back room, behind 3 layers of security, she kept her real work. Status report, she said to her assistant, Dr. Mike Johnson. The Zephyrian agent is ready for deployment. Field tests show 100% lethality within 6 hours of exposure. Sarah looked at the small vial in Mike's hands. It contained a clear liquid that looked like water. But this liquid was designed to destroy Zephyrian DNA from the inside out. It was completely harmless to humans, but it would kill any Zephyrian who came into contact with it. How do we deliver it? Stealth probes disguised as civilian evacuation ships. Each probe carries 50,000 doses, enough to contaminate their entire fleet's air supply. Sarah nodded. They had been working on biological weapons for every known species for the past 20 years. Not because they wanted to use them, but because they knew someday they might have to. What about other species? The ones that might help the Zephyrians? We have agents ready for the Corvan hegemony, the Stellar Republics, and the Trade Federation, just in case. Good. Launch the probes as soon as the Zephyrian fleet enters our solar system. Meanwhile, on the far side of the moon, Colonel Danny Foster was making final preparations at what the galaxy knew as Lunar Mining Station 7. To anyone watching, it looked like a simple facility for digging up moon rocks and processing rare metals dotting reality. It was the control center for the most powerful weapons platform in human history. Prometheus array status? Danny asked his operations officer. All 50 platforms online and charged. Targeting systems locked onto the Zephyrian staging area. Kinetic projectiles. Tungsten rods loaded and ready. Each rod weighs 10 tons and will impact at 91% light speed. Danny smiled. The galaxy thought humans were primitive because they used kinetic weapons. They didn't understand that humans had made kinetic weapons into an art form. A 10-ton tungsten rod moving at near light speed carried more destructive power than most. Species' best energy weapons. Stealth systems? Active. To any sensor scan, we still look like a mining operation. Danny walked to the observation deck and looked out at Earth rising over the lunar horizon. Somewhere out there, an alien fleet was preparing to destroy his homeworld. They thought they were going to fight helpless primitives. They had no idea what was waiting for them. Back on Earth, Admiral Jack Morrison received a coded message from Admiral Julie Barnes, commander of the Asteroid Belt Defense Network. The message was short. All stations ready. The rocks have teeth. Jack smiled. For 50 years, humans had been setting up mining operations throughout the asteroid belt. The galaxy saw them as desperate scavengers, picking through space debris for useful metals. They had no idea that each mining station was actually a heavily armed fortress. Hidden inside the asteroids were quantum disruptors, gravity bombs, and enough conventional weapons to destroy entire fleets. The asteroid belt had been turned into the galaxy's largest minefield, and no one knew it existed. General Patricia Woods appeared on Jack's screen. All preparations complete? Ready on all fronts. Project Lazarus is fully active. The Prometheus array is charged. The Asteroid Defense Network is in position. And Dr. Mitchell's biological weapons are loaded onto stealth probes. What about our conventional fleet? 37 ships, just like we've always told everyone. They'll put up a good show while the real weapons do the work. General Woods nodded. The president wants to know if you think this will work. Jack thought about all the preparations, all the secret weapons, all the years of careful planning. General, the Zephyrians think they're attacking a primitive species with barely any technology. They're about to learn that humans are very good at two things: hiding what we're really capable of, and making sure anyone who hurts us regrets it. And if other species figure out what we've been hiding, then they'll know to leave us alone. 72 hours later, the Zephyrian fleet began moving toward Earth. 600 ships, the largest invasion force in galactic history. War Commander Thexhai stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human solar system grow larger. On his screens, any sign of human fleet movement? Negative, Commander. Our scouts report only 37 ships in Earth orbit. They appear to be science vessels and cargo haulers, just as intelligence indicated. What about planetary defenses? Primitive orbital platforms with kinetic cannons. Nothing that can threaten our shields. Thexhai laughed. This will not even qualify as a battle. More like an extermination. But deep in the asteroid belt, Admiral, Barnes was watching the Zephyrian fleet approach. Her weapons were charged and ready. Hidden nanite swarms waited in dark corners of space. Quantum disruptors powered up silently. On the moon, Colonel Foster's finger hovered over the firing button for the Prometheus array. In Nevada, Dr. Tucker watched hundreds of weapon systems come online. And on Earth, Admiral Morrison prepared to show the galaxy what humans really were when someone made the mistake of attacking their home. War Commander Thexhai stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger on the main screen. The blue planet looked peaceful and defenseless, perfect for conquest. Range to target? 3 million kilometers in closing, Commander. Human fleet is moving to intercept. Thexhai looked at his tactical display. 37 human ships were leaving Earth orbit, arranged in a loose formation. They looked pathetic compared to his 600 warships. What are they doing? Unknown, sir. They appear to be ... charging directly at us. Thexhai laughed. Brave, but stupid, just like humans. Open fire when they reach 2 million kilometers. But Commander Kevin Bell, leading the human fleet, had no intention of getting that close. His job was to make the Zephyrians focus on him while the real weapons prepared to strike. All ships, this is Bell. Remember, we're the distraction. Make it look good, but don't take unnecessary risks. The human ships spread out, firing their kinetic cannons and fusion missiles. The weapons looked impressive, but barely scratched Zephyrian. Shields. It was exactly what Thexhai expected from primitive humans. Their weapons are as weak as our intelligence suggested, the Zephyrian tactical officer reported. Shall we destroy them quickly? No. Let them exhaust their ammunition first. I want them to understand how hopeless their situation is. Hidden on the far side of the moon, Colonel Danny Foster watched the battle through his sensors. The Zephyrian fleet was exactly where he wanted them. Prometheus Array, this is command. You are authorized to fire. Copy, command. Firing sequence initiated. In space, hidden among what looked like mining equipment, 50 massive kinetic cannons swiveled toward the Zephyrian fleet. Each cannon held a 10-ton tungsten rod, accelerated to 91% of light speed by powerful magnetic fields. The rods were invisible as they streaked through space. No energy signature, no exhaust trail, nothing for Zephyrian sensors to detect. They were just pieces of metal moving very, very fast. The first rod hit HFY's flagship in the engine section. At near light speed, the tungsten penetrated shields. Like they weren't there, punched through armor like paper, and kept going. The entire rear half of the ship simply disappeared in a flash of vaporized metal. What was that? HFY screamed as his bridge shook violently. Unknown impact. We've lost engines and rear weapons. More rods slammed into the Zephyrian fleet. Each impact destroyed whatever it hit completely. Battleships split in half. Cruisers exploded into clouds of debris. The mighty Zephyrian fleet suddenly found itself under attack by invisible weapons. Where are they firing from? Unknown. Sensors show no energy signatures. Find them. But Admiral Julie Barnes wasn't giving them time to think. Deep in the asteroid belt, her hidden stations came online. What the Zephyrians had thought were mining operations revealed their true nature. All stations, this is Barnes, release the swarms. Containers that had been drifting through the asteroid belt for decades suddenly opened. Millions of tiny silver spheres poured out, each one no bigger than a marble. They looked harmless, but they were the most dangerous weapons humanity had ever created. The nanite swarms moved through space like living things, attracted to the metal hulls of Zephyrian ships. When they made contact, they began to consume the metal, turning it into more nanites. Each swarm could reproduce itself in minutes. Commander, something is eating our hull. HFY watched in horror as his ships began to dissolve from the outside in. The nanites spread from ship to ship, consuming everything they touched. Entire squadrons disappeared as their hulls were turned into more nanites. Use plasma weapons. Burn them off. But the nanites adapted faster than the Zephyrians could respond. When they fired plasma, the nanites evolved heat resistance. When they used energy weapons, the nanites learned to absorb energy and use it to reproduce faster. In the asteroid belt, Admiral Barnes watched the tactical display with satisfaction. Quantum disruptors, you're clear to fire. Hidden throughout the asteroids, devices that looked like communications arrays suddenly activated. But instead of sending messages, they sent tears in space-time itself. Reality began to break down around the Zephyrian fleet. Black holes the size of basketballs appeared and disappeared, swallowing whatever came too close. Space itself became a weapon as the laws of physics bent and twisted. A Zephyrian battleship tried to escape by jumping to hyperspace. The moment it entered the quantum field, it simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, not damaged, it just wasn't there anymore. Commander, we need to retreat. Where? HFY demanded. Half our ships are gone. The other half are being eaten by some kind of disease. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Mitchell watched the battle from her laboratory. The Zephyrian fleet was in chaos, but she wanted to make sure none of them escaped. Release the probes. Small ships that looked like civilian evacuation vessels launched from hidden bases around Earth. The Zephyrians ignored them, focusing on the invisible weapons that were destroying their fleet. The probes flew straight into the middle of the Zephyrian formation and exploded. releasing clouds of biological agents into space. The virus spread through the air systems of every Zephyrian ship, carried by their own ventilation. Within minutes, Zephyrian crew members began collapsing at their stations. The virus attacked their DNA directly, shutting down their immune systems and organs. There was no cure, no treatment, no way to stop it. Medical emergency on all decks. Commander, the crew is dying. All of them? Every Zephyrian on the ship. The humans. The human prisoners are fine, but our people are falling over dead. HFY realized the horrible truth. The biological weapon was designed specifically for Zephyrians. The humans had studied their DNA and created a virus that would kill only them, but the worst was yet to come. In the depths of Nevada, Dr. Allen Tucker activated the final phase of Project Lazarus. Gravity bombs armed and ready. Launch. Devices the size of refrigerators launched from hidden silos across Earth. They flew toward the largest concentration of Zephyrian ships and detonated in a flash of twisted space-time. Suddenly, the Zephyrian flagship began to collapse in on itself. Gravity increased by 1,000 times, crushing the massive ship down to the size of a marble. A gravity field spread, pulling in other ships, debris, even light itself. Emergency jump. Get us out of here. But it was too late. The gravity bomb created a temporary black hole that swallowed a quarter of the remaining Zephyrian fleet in seconds. Commander Bell, still leading the human fleet, opened a communication channel to the surviving Zephyrians. War Commander HFY. This is Commander Bell of the Earth Defense Force. Do you surrender? HFY looked around his ruined bridge. Of his 600 ships, fewer than 50 remained. His crew was dying from a virus he couldn't cure. Invisible weapons were picking off his remaining vessels, one by one. This is impossible. You're primitives. You have no technology. We have exactly the technology we want you to think we have. Your mistake was believing it. How? How did you hide all this? Bell smiled, though HFY couldn't see it. We learned a long time ago that the galaxy is full of species who judge others by their weapons. So we made sure you only saw the weapons. We wanted you to see. Another Zephyrian ship disappeared in a flash of quantum energy. The kinetic cannons, the nanites, the biological weapons. How long have you been planning this? About 70 years. Ever since we found that crashed ship in Antarctica and realized we weren't alone. We knew someday someone would try to destroy us, so we prepared. But the Galactic Council, you've been members for 12 years. Ambassador, Price has been very helpful. Every diplomatic meeting, every cultural exchange, every trade negotiation, we were learning about you, your technology, your biology, your weaknesses. HFY felt sick. Every time he had met with humans, every time he had dismissed them as primitives, they had been studying him, planning for this moment. You ... You planned to kill us all alone? No, we planned to defend ourselves. There's a difference. Another gravity bomb detonated, swallowing 10 more Zephyrian ships. We gave you every chance to leave us alone. But you chose to attack our colonies. You chose to kill our people. So now you get to see what humans are really capable of. HFY watched. His fleet disappear around him. The mighty Zephyrian Empire, conqueror of hundreds of worlds, was being destroyed by a species they had thought was barely above animals. I surrender. Please, we surrender. Too late for that. You said it yourself. You are going to completely eliminate the human infection. Well, now we're going to completely eliminate the Zephyrian threat. The last of HFY's ships exploded in a burst of nanites. His flagship, crushed and broken, drifted dead in space. The war commander who had come to destroy humanity floated in the wreckage of his dreams of conquest. In 6 hours. The most powerful fleet in galactic history had been completely destroyed. Not a single Zephyrian ship escaped Earth's solar system. Admiral Morrison opened a communication channel that broadcast to every species in the galaxy. This is Admiral Jack Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. To any species listening, this is what happens when you attack human colonies. This is what happens when you threaten our people. This is what happens when you underestimate us. The message spread across the galaxy at light speed, carrying news of humanity's victory and the terrible weapons they had kept hidden for so long. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the organization's 1,000-year history. Representatives from 50 species sat in stunned silence as they watched recordings of the battle. The mighty Zephyrian fleet, 600 ships strong, had been completely destroyed in 6 hours. Ambassador Bluon of the Altarians spoke first, his voice shaking. How many human casualties? Ambassador Helen Price sat calmly in the human section, no longer playing the role of a frightened primitive. 0? 0? That's impossible. The Zephyrians never got close enough to threaten any of our ships. Ambassador Kretek leaned forward. What were those weapons? Our scientists can't identify half of what we saw. Helen smiled. Trade secrets. You've been lying to us for 12 years. We've been protecting ourselves for 70 years. There's a difference. On Earth, President Robert Hayes stood in the Oval Office, surrounded by his military advisors. Admiral Morrison had just finished briefing him on the battle results. Sir, we intercepted communications from 17 different species. They're all demanding explanations. Let them demand. General Woods, what's the status of Operation Nemesis? General Patricia Woods consulted her tablet. 48 human ships have jumped to Zephyrian space. They're equipped with the full range of Project Lazarus weapons. Opposition? None, sir. Every Zephyrian military installation has surrendered without firing a shot. They saw what happened to their main fleet, the president nodded. How long until we control their entire empire? At current pace, 72 hours. They have colonies on 53 worlds, but none of them have any real defenses. Casualties? Minimal. Most Zephyrian forces are surrendering as soon as our ships arrive. Word of our capabilities has spread throughout their empire. On the moon, Colonel Danny Foster was overseeing the dismantling of Zephyrian wreckage. Teams of engineers were studying every piece of alien technology they could find. Sir, we've recovered intact shield generators from 3 battleships. The technology is actually less advanced than ours. How so? They rely on brute force, massive power generators to maintain strong shields. Our approach is more elegant. We punch through their shields because we understand the physics better. Danny smiled. Anything else useful? Their computers are primitive. No quantum encryption, no adaptive firewalls. We've already downloaded their entire military database. What did we find? Locations of every Zephyrian base, ship, and weapon. Intelligence files on every species they've been watching. And detailed invasion plans for 17 different civilizations. Including us? Earth was supposed to be the first of 5 primitive species eliminations scheduled for this year. Danny felt cold. Who were the others? The Peaceful Coalition, the Harmony, Worlds, the New Democratic Union, and the Crystal Gardens Collective. All peaceful species. All species the Zephyrians thought couldn't fight back. Meanwhile, in Nevada, Dr. Alan Tucker was beginning the process of putting Project Lazarus back to sleep. Most of the weapons would be stored again, hidden, until they were needed. Doctor, what about the nanite swarms? Alan looked at the readouts. Millions of tiny machines were still active in space, having consumed the metal from Zephyrian ships to reproduce. Can we recall them? Most of them. But some have evolved beyond our control protocols. They're still eating metal and making more. Nanites? How many? maybe 10% of the original swarms. They're spreading through the outer system, consuming asteroids and space debris. Alan frowned. Will they threaten our own ships? Unknown. They were programmed to target Zephyrian hull materials specifically, but evolution doesn't always follow programming. Keep monitoring them. If they become a problem, we'll deal with it. Dr. Sarah Mitchell was facing a similar issue in her lab. The biological weapon had worked perfectly. Too perfectly. The virus is still active in Zephyrian space. It's spreading to any ship or station that had contact with the fleet. Can we stop it? Not without going there personally. The virus was designed to be unstoppable once released. Sarah looked at the data. How many Zephyrians are still alive? In their home system? Maybe a few million. Out of a population of 12 billion. Sarah felt sick. She had created the virus to defend Earth, but now it was wiping out an entire species. Sarah, we didn't have a choice. They were going to kill every human in the galaxy. I know, but 12 billion people. 12 billion people who supported a government that committed genocide for fun. This is what they chose. Back at the Galactic Council, the debate was growing heated. Ambassador Helen Price listened as species after species demanded explanations for humanity's hidden weapons. You violated every treaty on advanced weapons. Research. We signed no such treaties. The Geneva Protocols clearly state the Geneva Protocols apply to human conflicts. These were self-defense weapons designed to protect us from alien threats. Ambassador Veltar of the Trade Federation stood up. You've upset the balance of power. Humans were supposed to be a minor species. According to who? You? According to your own technology assessments. Your ships use chemical rockets. Helen smiled. Our cargo ships use chemical rockets because they're cheap and reliable. Our military ships use something else entirely. What else? That's classified. The crystalline collective representative flickered with angry light patterns. Humanity must submit to weapons inspections immediately. No. We're a sovereign species. We don't answer to this council. You're members of this council. We're observers in this council. There's a difference. Ambassador Bluin tried to calm the situation. Helen, surely you understand our concerns. These weapons you've revealed? They could destroy entire civilizations. Yes, they could. That's rather the point. But what's to stop you from using them on us? Helen looked around the chamber at all the frightened faces. Simple. Don't attack us. The silence that followed was deafening. For 70 years, humanity has been peaceful. We've never started a war, never conquered a world, never enslaved another species. We're explorers and scientists and farmers, but we're not victims. She stood up, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. The Zephyrians thought we were. Weak because we chose peace. They thought we were primitive because we didn't wave our weapons around for everyone to see. They were wrong. What do you want from us? Ambassador Kretak asked. Nothing. Trade with us or don't. Be our friends. Or ignore us. We don't care. But if any of you ever attack human colonies again, if you ever threaten our people, if you ever make the mistake of thinking we can't defend ourselves, ... She gestured to the screens still showing wreckage from the Zephyrian fleet. Remember this. Helen gathered her things and walked toward the exit. As she reached the door, she turned back. Oh, and one more thing. We've discovered that the Zephyrians had invasion plans for 17 other species. The Peaceful Coalition, the Harmony Worlds, and 15 others. You might want to thank us for eliminating that threat. She left the chamber in stunned silence. 3 days later, Admiral Morrison received reports from the final phases of Operation Nemesis. Captain Susan Blake transmitted from the Zephyrian homeworld. Admiral, the planet is secure. Zephyrian government has formally surrendered. We're beginning the process of dismantling their military infrastructure. What about survivors? Maybe 5 million on the homeworld. Small populations on remote colonies. The biological weapon was ... very effective. Morrison felt a mix of satisfaction and sadness. The Zephyrian Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, was finished, but the cost had been enormous. Susan, what's the mood of the surviving Zephyrians? Terror, mostly. They keep asking if we're going to enslave them or eat them. What did you tell them? That we're not interested in enslaving anyone. We just want to make sure they never attack anyone. Again, are they cooperating? Completely. They're so afraid of us now that they're begging to help. Admiral Morrison looked out at Earth, spinning peacefully below his station. The blue planet looked exactly the same as it had a week ago, but everything had changed. Humanity was no longer a minor species to be ignored or dismissed. Captain Blake established a monitoring station on their homeworld. Full weapons research ban. No military ships larger than patrol craft. And they pay reparations to the families of our colonists. Understood, sir. Morrison opened a new communication channel, broadcasting on all galactic frequencies. This is Admiral Jack Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. 1 week ago, the Zephyrian Empire attacked 3 peaceful human colonies and murdered nearly 3 million innocent people. Today, the Zephyrian Empire no longer exists. He paused, letting that sink in across the galaxy. To the species of the galaxy who value peace, who respect the sovereignty of others, who believe in the right of civilizations to exist without fear, humanity stands with you. To those who believe that might makes right, who think peaceful species are easy targets, who would commit genocide for conquest, ... double quotes, Morrison looked directly into the camera. We are watching you. We know who you are. We know where you live. And if you ever threaten innocent people again, you will join the Zephyrians in extinction. The message reached every corner of the galaxy within hours. On 1,000 worlds, governments held emergency meetings. Military commanders looked at their invasion plans and quietly filed them away. Warlords who had been preparing to attack